Welcome to the wonderful world of Strange Suspicion True Crime series.
Hey guys, welcome to Strange Suspicion. If this is your first time here, I hope you will consider pushing that subscribe button and like button and leave us a comment and let us know what you think of our channel.
You know, I'm ready. I'm ready for this to go on and lay out the case and let the community see what the evidence is. And then, let the cards fly where they're going to go. There's been a lot of weird processes, things that were done in a way that are there to help everybody and help the witnesses, the surviving witnesses. But I'm just ready for the normal court process and normal justice and just get back to what, we kind of learned at school. And that's what I want to see. I want to see just lay it out, transparency. Everybody gets to see what, their evidence is, what our evidence is. And then we let the jury members decide.
Welcome back to Strange Suspicion. As always, please keep in mind that this trial has not yet begun and the evidence has obviously not been fully released. With that being said, anything we discuss in these videos is alleged and based on opinion. So what do we know about evidence anyway? It's essential in every case. Another thing we know is that in a crime scene, everything is fully surrounded by crime scene tape, and everything remains as it is until it's assessed and submitted as either evidence or information for an investigation. So let's take a look and you tell me what you notice within these images. So where do I start? I don't know, but there are definitely a lot of things that I would like to point out about these images. And I just want to begin right at the back of the house where you can clearly see a screen has been taken off of a window, and it doesn't appear to be taken off in such a manner that somebody would take their own screen off the window and took great care and placed it down on the ground without any damage. It seems to have been forcefully taken off of the window, perhaps in a hurry, by somebody who had no regard for the property or the screen. Another detail I noticed is right at the back door, there's a garbage can that seems to have been pushed over or ran into, seemingly by someone who would be unfamiliar with a garbage can being placed there, someone unfamiliar with the property or the backyard. Logically, I would assume that that means somebody who has not been to that house before. Again, I'm just assessing what I see. However, there are some videos taken from right outside of the house. Some kind of member of mainstream media is like right outside of the house as the police and the investigators were inside taking pictures of the scene of the crime and swabbing something in the living room. I found that very interesting because the living room is very close to the kitchen, where we've all seen pictures of a female investigator swabbing around and paying close attention to something right above the door, the sliding glass doors. So it's just very interesting and very peculiar to me as well that people can be right outside, members of the media, taking images and video, and I feel like it might interfere with the integrity of an investigation. And I'm not even sure it's legal to stand outside and take video and images of police doing their investigation. But what do I know about Idaho law? Really nothing. But if you ask me, logically, interfering with an investigation by having video and images of things that should not be made available to the public eye, it just seems morally wrong, and I feel it's disrespectful to the victims of this crime. So I completely disagree with any kind of videos like that being made, but I have noticed them, and a lot of assumptions that have been made by media and a lot of alleged information has been leaked and labeled as fact. However, I always wondered where they got their storyline from. So Bob and I recently watched that movie 2 days back that Bryan Kohberger's sister is in, and I'm not sure, but because there isn't really a clear picture of what happened in this crime, I feel like a lot of people have taken from the plot of that movie and applied it to their opinion about this case. Unfortunately, the movie's fiction, guys, and just because his sister was in a movie where murders happened, it doesn't mean that Bryan did anything from that movie to act out such a thing. It's kind of childish and naive to think something so bleak and circumstantial could have anything to do with this, just simply because his sister acted in a movie where such things happen. Bob and I did see a lot of things that provoked me to bring such information to you. And if you haven't seen the movie, I would recommend you do so. His sister is actually a really good actress, and as far as I know, she completely supports him and the presumption of his innocence. And that's not
alleged.
Well, I'd like to think there are no similarities between the movie and the crime. I don't know a great deal about the crime, though, to be honest. I've not been following it closely. A lot of times, I heard it mentioned. I knew it had happened. I knew that people were tracking it. I knew the person was from Pennsylvania, but until yesterday, I didn't know that I knew anybody in the family, and I feel terrible for the family. I mean, Amanda's a wonderful person. I feel terrible for what she must be going through, what her parents must be going through, what her sister must be going through. I mean, it's got to be terrible. It's got to be horrifying. I don't think our movie doesn't really have that kind of event in it. It does have, it is a horror film, but it doesn't parallel what happened, I wouldn't think at all.
Two women were fired from their jobs due to their relationship to Bryan Kohberger. Take a listen.
Then the question is it a violation of federal law or Pennsylvania law? And Pennsylvania follows the presumption of at-will employment. So at-will employment essentially states that an employer can terminate an employee for any reason, whether it's a good reason, a bad reason, or a completely unfair reason.
Hi, my name is Brian. Would you be able to give me a haircut tomorrow by any chance?
My last appointment with him was December 2nd at 1:45 p.m.
After the murders?
It's crazy to find out I interacted with this person. I touched this person's hair. I made this person look and feel good about themselves.
I saw his mugshot and just about fell on the floor.
There needs to be taken off the table, or they need to execute people in a timely manner.
Jan's brother, John Justad, and bartender Brandy Rains were found dead on the floor of the Old Rose Pub in Boise on December 20th, 1990. Both had been bludgeoned with a blunt object.
It was about 7 in the morning, and it was 25 below zero. It was blizzarding snow outside, and there were two detectives standing on my doorstep, and they said that they had found John. The reason they thought it was him is because his ID had been taken, but he had a ring on his finger, which was a ring that my dad had given him and had the last name on it.
Police believe the motive was robbery because money was missing from the cash register. For nearly 4 months, no one knew who killed John and Brandy.
I wanted it over.
Well, when the news broke of 4 students brutally killed in Moscow, it reopened an old wound Jan had had from her brother's murder, especially because the University of Idaho is Jan's alma mater.
It's like having a really bad cut on your arm, and some days it feels really good, and then other days it's just split wide open. And it's not something that goes away.
Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of the murders, could face the death penalty if prosecutors decide to file it against him.
I mean, that was a violent, very violent death, and all of them. And I just feel so sorry for all those family members, because I know that dealing with the Idaho justice system is a very, very long process.
It is absolutely unfortunate that somebody would have to wait in our justice system that long to get a trial. I mean, he came back to prove his innocence, to be exonerated of the charges, and here he still sits. And while he's sitting, there are thousands of people on the internet and thousands of people watching mainstream media speculating and making their own assumptions. And you see creators who will actually have you staring at ghosts in car windows and listening to audio convincing you somehow by beating it into your head that you can hear something from a football field away on a microphone mounted on an apartment building with hundreds of college students living in it who are probably up at all hours of the night. Not to mention, I could hear somebody calling a dog, and I would assume that Murphy is not the only dog in a neighborhood full of thousands of people. Those apartments have hundreds of people living in them. And the neighborhood surrounding and leading up to 1122 is hundreds of kids. So any of those voices that were heard on a camera from Linda Lane or wherever this camera is, they're most likely not voices of the victims. We don't even have a complete timeline, a correct timeline. We've gone over that. The timeline doesn't make sense. If you listen to the police, there's a timeline. And if you listen to the parents, there's an absolutely different timeline. I'm not sure why, but since this is just part one, guys, strap yourselves in, rewatch this, give it a like, give it a comment, and come back for part two later in the week. You should keep your eye on the community tab because we have rearranged things around here just a little bit, and anytime we have any news, we do post it on the community tab. So at this time, I want to thank everyone for coming to this video, and I also want to thank you for your shares, your comments, your super chats, and your gifted memberships. Remember to vote on the live, on the community post, so we know what to do during the live, and take care.